the only one who deserves to receive the glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. 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 Let's give him some big claps today, right? Before you sit down, can you say something nice to your neighbor? Good, good. Today is it's a very special day. I have a very special topic today, and I really need those single people to sit at the front. Yes, yeah, you can stay right there. You don't have to move up. Ram, stay, please. All right. I know the topic is about singleness, but even though we are married, we kind of skip this process. But the truth is, we are all called to be single before. First week, we talk about dating, right? And there are 3 lessons that's very important. That date, where's everyone? They have their own session. Usually married couples. All right. 3 lessons from the first session. Anybody remember? 3 P's. What's that?
Purpose.
Right person.
The right person. In dating, you must have the right person, obviously, right?
Yep.
The second is what? The right process. And the third one is?
Purpose.
The right purpose. That's why in the second week, we learn about the purpose, which is what?
Marriage.
Covenant marriage, right? Covenant marriage. And then last week, it was another very hot topic. Rico actually asked me to talk specifically for that. Where is he? Yeah, last week we talked about sex, right? It's a very hot topic, especially when you're in church. And then this week, we're going to talk a very, very important, which I should probably start this month with this instead of dating, but it's better late than never. Okay, so we're going to talk about single. How many of you know that there are 2 different kinds of relationship? 2 different kinds of relationship. The first relationship is what they call interpersonal, right? See, is relationship with other people, right? And the second relationship is intrapersonal, is the relationship within you, is inside of you. Basically, it's saying that to learn to know who you are, right? And I think this is the most important relationship because if you don't know who we are, it's hard for us to learn about another person, true? Right? And a lot of times this is what's caused heartache and people are arguing, they fight, right? Or even a divorce in a marriage, right? A lot of times because they did not know who they were before they decided to have an interpersonal relationship. And also because of the second relationship, we came out with Korean drama. Right? Because people do not know who they are and they're trying to find out, who they are in life. And they say, hey, this is actually a good subject. Let's make a drama out of this, right? Oppa. This morning I heard a new word. What is that? Azuma? All right, so let's continue before we go any further. All right, singleness. Singleness is very important, and it's actually more important than marriage itself. I want you to open your Bible, look at Genesis chapter 2. Genesis chapter 2.
Genesis.
Yeah, that's Rico. Genesis chapter 2. Let's look at verse 18. It's one of the famous verse here, especially if you're single. And the Lord God said, "It is not good that a man should be alone." Everybody say alone.
Alone.
I will make him a helper comparable to him. It is not good for the man to be alone. Now, I want you to make note here that the Bible did not say it is not good for a man to be single, right? God said that it's not good for the man to be alone. Why is that? Anybody knows? Why is it not good for a man to be alone? Now, when God created man, he actually gives some of his attribute to Adam, right? And one of the main attribute is love, because God is love, right? And the basic understanding of love can only be seen if there are two people. Understand? There are two people, because love is giving, right? Love is giving, and if you don't have anybody to give this love to, then there's no function of love. Right? So love cannot dwell alone because it wants to give. Right? I cannot just love without my wife because then I cannot express my love to her. Right? Right? Because God is love. Okay, that's the first reason. The second reason, as soon as God created a helper, the command shifted from working and keeping the garden, it shifted to multiply and fill the earth. Right? So the second reason why man is not good to be alone is because God wanted to fill up the earth, right? With descendants, with children. Now, note that we have about 6 billion people right now on earth, right? Does the number change? Anybody knows? I wish Chris is here because he's very good with numbers. It's about 6 billion people, right? We have about 6 billion. But do you know there's only one man from that 6 billion people? Okay? Oh, there's more than 6 billion now. But there's only one man that God created from soil. Right? There's only one man that God created from soil. The rest came from reproduction, from Adam. Right? So Adam was the only one that God needed to create. And after that, he just gave him the command, you need to multiply now. Right? And because of the helper, it helped him to multiply and fill the earth. Okay? Now the third reason why it's not good, because without another person, it's impossible to build your character. Without another person, it's impossible to build your character. Right? I do not know that, my wife is tested my patience a lot of times. But it's good because it develops patience in my life, right? And I need her to help me to be a patient person. Right? It builds character. That's why in Proverbs 27:17 says that iron sharpens
Iron.
iron. Thank you, Marcelo. But person sharpens another person, right? Sharpens a man sharpens the other person. So, in order for you to build your character, you need another person to help you build that character, whether it's a male or a female, right? Everybody following me until now? Okay, God found out that Adam needed help. Now, pay attention to what Adam was created for. What was he created for?
Take care of the garden.
To take care of the garden, right? That was the first command. Now, Adam, he was a busy man, right? He's a busy man. Working in the garden of God with all his animals is a very hard duty, don't you think? Especially when you have to name all the animals. You don't have Google at that time. No iPad walking around and saying, Siri, can you help me? Four-legged animals with big ears and a trunk. What should I call them? Right? There's no Siri at that time, right? So he has to name every single animals, and it's more than a full-time job for him. He is so busy, right? But God still feel like it's not good for this man to be alone. Like the truthfully, he wasn't alone. He was with God in the garden, right? He was with God. But God said, something is missing in his life. I learned that, especially for a male, okay, for the man, keep yourself busy, right? Do what you are called to do. Fulfill your purpose, achieve your vision, right? And then when the time comes, God will tell you, it's not good for you to be alone. Okay? It's not good for you to be alone. Right? Okay, there are three married couples here. Oh, actually, you're not married too. Okay, but no, don't go there. This message is for you. Okay, but we males, right? The husbands, before we got married, we had a job, right, Cole? Right? And then, right, bro? We had a job, right? We worked, right? I remember the second session we learned about what a man should do before they go into a relationship, right? They have to be in the presence of the Lord. They have to be in the garden, right? They have to know who God is. They have to be in God's presence, right? And then the second, we learned that they have to cultivate. They must have a job, right? How are you going to feed the other person if you don't even have a job, right? And I remember I was just sharing this to Felix yesterday, because he asked me, what did you break up? Because I dated my wife. First time we dated was only lasted for 4 months. And he asked me, why did you guys break up and then married again after, 8 years later we got married. So he remembers all the numbers. Um, and he asked me that, and I said, well, this is what happened. My mom, she did not agree with us going out at that time because we were still so young. And my mom asked me, okay, so you want to date this girl. When you guys go out, who pays? And I said, well, I buy her ice cream and fast food or whatever, right? And I was like, oh, that's very nice of you. What money did you use to buy those stuff? I said, well, from my allowance. Oh, allowance. Where did you get your allowance from? I said, from you. You gave it to me. That's good. So if you're going to take her out and pay for her food using my money, don't you think I get to say something in this relationship? And I said, oh, I know where this is going. This is bad.
Stephen, I came in wrongly.
No comment on that part, but if you need a counseling, we are free. That's right. I said, so my mom was so determined that this relationship has to end. Right? I said, okay, mom, I know where you were trying to say. And then my mom said, okay, just so you get my point, I'm gonna call her mom. And then she made sure that her mom understood as well that this relationship has to end. And then we broke up on the same day, right? On the same day. Uh, But the funny thing is, about 8 years later, my mom was actually the one who hooked us up. It's like, oh, hey, you still single? I said, yes. Remember, I found the love of my life and you said no? And I said, hey, you know what? I just saw her the other day and you want me to give you her number? I was like, sure. And then long story short, Lindsay was born. Okay. All right, so that's that. Okay. Now, men, remember, get a job, cultivate, achieve your vision.
Amen.
Live a life with a purpose is most important, right? And the last thing, remember what was Adam created for, is to protect the garden. Okay, protect the garden, and also Eve. After Eve was created, Eve is now in the garden as well, right? They live in the garden, and the reason is because Adam was the protector of the garden. Now, since Eve is in the garden, Eve is also under his protection. True? That's why men are built with muscles. Like Rico Brown. Right? Muscle. We don't have Rudy here, so I was use him as an example. But men are created to have muscle, right? Our bone structure are different than women. Okay, it's funny because when God created Adam, he used the word, he formed a man. Form is like a very general word. It's like, I'm going to form you, like that. But when he created Eve, he used the word build. He said, I'm going to build you. There's a sculpture in God's movement, right? So he didn't just, I'm just going to build you. There you go. Okay, but when he created Eve, he actually took the time. He did not want Adam to interfere, so he put Adam to sleep. Right? Because if Adam interfered, it will not be Eve. It will be Johnny. Right? Because Adam will feel like, you want to create another man? Okay, and he has to look like this. Can you have a little bit bigger muscle? No, God said, that's not the kind of helper I want you to have. Okay? You go to sleep, I'll take care of this one. I need my time with this one. Right? So he created, in Indonesia, the lekukan, lekukan?
Curves.
The curves, yeah, there you go. The curves, right? Really take the time. Now, go back to singleness here. All right, singleness. The singleness that I really want to tell you, I wanna pass the message is really about being a whole person. If you look at the definition of single, if you Google it up, it actually means a whole, okay? Separated. It is complete. It's a single, right? Is a whole being. Now, it's so important. Being single is so important. A lot of people forget. Oh, my purpose is to be married. Right? Really, you don't have to be married to be happy. Right? You don't have to. Actually, you're probably happier if you're single. Right? Because you don't have to deal with all this. Jelena knows what I'm talking about. Right? Now you have two minds, right, in the house, right? And they both are very strong, like I shared before. 11 years in marriage. On day one, we got married. I said, okay, I'll make all the big decisions. You make all the small decisions. But 11 years we got married, we never make big decisions. They're all small. In other words, she's the one who always makes the decisions. Right? It's like 11 years we never make big decisions. Buying a house is not big, it's simple. It's okay, I'll take care of it. Right? Yeah, it's all small decisions. Okay, but anyway, being complete. It's so important that the Bible actually encourages you to be single. Everybody probably like, what? Okay, let's take a look. Let's take a look. Where's the verse? 1 Corinthians 7. Let's look at 1 Corinthians 7, verse 8. One Corinthians 7, verse 8. The title in my New King James Version, the title is Principles of Marriage. And I'm going to read you verse 8. For I wish that all men were even as myself, but each one has his own gift from God, one in this matter and another in that. But I say to the unmarried, verse 8, I say to the unmarried and to the widows, it is good for them if they remain even as I am. Paul said, I'm single. But if you're not married, it is good to be single. Extra counseling for that purpose. Alright, but if you're not married, it is good to be single. Right? But if you are married, please, just skip this verse. Okay? Don't say that, oh, Michael, the Bible said it's good to be single. Can I just be single now? Right? No, you can do that, right? Once you are married, you are stuck with that person forever. You're stuck, right? You're stuck. Okay, I want to talk to you about divorce here, a little bit about divorce, okay? Because divorce is part of the singleness, actually. A lot of people, one of the main reasons, there are two main reasons why people get divorced. The first one is financial reason. The second one is sexual needs, right? The third one is not very common, but people use it as an excuse. I don't love the other person anymore, right? Which is very lame. Now, divorce can only happen if two people are married. True? If they're just dating, they can just cut off the relationship. There won't be any divorce, right? Now, the only reason why two people can get married because there are two singles, two individuals, right? So now, instead of focusing on the divorce part, I think the main problem is the singleness part, right? So this is what I'm trying to equip everybody here today, especially the single ones, right? I want you to be a complete person, so when you get married, you won't end up in a divorce, right? How can we be a whole person? Can anybody help me? By knowing who you are, right? By knowing who you are, what your purpose is. It's okay to be single as long as you're not alone.
Wow.
It's okay to be single as long as you're not alone, right? It's really, really bad, especially when a person decides to become an island, right? It's really bad because now you're isolated. You don't want to be friends with anybody, antisocial, right? You don't want to hang out with anybody. That's the bad part, right? You're still single, obviously, right? But you're also alone. That's really bad. Now, another myth that I want to break: it's okay to be a 40 years old virgin. Okay, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as you fulfill your life, your purpose in life, it's better than being married to another person and ended up in a divorce. Right? But become whole first. Become whole. Become single first. Okay, God's original foundation is He wanted to everybody to be a single. Right? meaning that everybody to be a whole before you ended up in an interpersonal relationship. God began a human race with a single, not a couple. He began a human race with only one person. Right? Now, another thing I want to share with you, a lot of times people think of singleness as being single, which is not true. Which is not true. Because, I can name some of the single people here. There's a lot of friends. Right? There's a lot of friends. And really, before you end up in a marriage, I want you to become a full person. Be 100%. Right? Be 100%. Don't be a half person. Because if you're not complete, you're gonna spend the rest of your life trying to find another person who can complete you, and that's bad. That is bad. Right? I did not marry my wife so she can complete my life. No. Right? I have to be completed first before I can share my life with another person. Right? If I'm 50% and she's 50%, when I give her my 50%, then I'll be empty. Right? She'll be fulfilled. Right? Like always. I always fulfill her. Anticipate her needs, right? But then I don't want to be empty myself either, right? Otherwise it'll be, just one-sided love. Cinta tepuk sebelah tangan. Thank you, Oren. Oren texted me that last time. Pujangga. But anyway, you have to be a complete person before you enter marriage. So it'll be fair for the other person, right? And vice versa, the other person has also to be a complete person before enter into your life, right? If both of us understand this concept, this principle, then the government won't even have to spend a lot of money trying to fix broken home families, right? Because these two people are now complete. They know how to take care of each other, they know how to take care of themselves, and now they are ready to take care of their children, right? Equally yoked. We still have that picture? Equally yoked. The Bible said you must equally yoke to the other person. Equally yoked meaning simply as this. It's amazing for me to see why God pulled Eve, or when He wanted to create Eve, He pulled Adam's ribs, right? He did not use any part from the brain or from the feet, but He used from the side, right? Meaning that, hey, you know what? This person is not above you. This person is not below you. This person is to be along with you, to be your side, right? To be your sidekick. Do we have that picture? There you go. Equally yoked.
Nice.
That's what yoke means, right? That little wooden thing in the middle to attach the two cows together. That's what they call yoke, right? Equally yoked, meaning that you must be equal. Okay, can you imagine if one is cow and the other one is sheep, or one is cow and the other one is an elephant, right? You won't be equally yoked, right? Now, I say this a lot of times, especially in the counseling session. Education is very important. Education is very, very important. Proverbs said, help me out. Umatku binasa karena tidak punya visi. Okay. My people perish because lack of vision. Okay. Vision translated into knowledge. Okay. Now, knowledge is very, very important. That's why I say education is important. Okay. Especially when you are trying to be equally yoked Okay, I said this because I've seen a lot of people, especially a married couple. Okay, one is graduated with a master's degree, for example, or even a lawyer. Okay, while the other person is a high schooler, dropout. Right? You can't be equally yoked with that person. Doesn't matter how much you love that person. Okay, education is very, very important, critical. Because imagine this. Okay, one, let's say a lawyer or a CEO in a company, okay, who is surrounded by his peers, right, who's also probably in that level of education and experience and all that. Okay, if your spouse is not as educated as you, that's going to be a problem. Imagine if you go into a party with a company, right? And then you have your spouse next to you. And it's like, well, everybody's talking with their intellectual level, and then, your spouse will just be quiet, probably didn't even know what people are talking about. It's really sad. It's really sad. That's why one of the first thing I encourage everybody, you must be on the same level of education. If not, at least very, very close to it. Right? Very, very close to it. Because it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard. Okay? I'm not saying it's impossible. It's possible, but it's hard. Okay, equally yoked. Another thing is your spiritual level. I hate to say this, but this is what actually happens. There are so many marriage counseling. The problem is because, oh, my husband, he's a non-believer. He doesn't want to go to church. But I want my children to grow up in Sunday school like I did, for example. Like she would say that, but my husband doesn't want to go to church because he's a non-believer. A lot of times that's the problem that's already happened. I would rather stop it from the beginning, right? Instead of trying to fix the marriage, we should take a look at the two single person before it ended up in a marriage, right? Somebody asked me, Pastor, can you pray because the person that I'm dating right now is a non-Christian, and I really want to make this thing work, this relationship work. I, it's hard for me because if somebody asks me to pray for that, it's something that I really do not believe in. I don't believe two people who, non-believers, that don't worry, Pastor, I will drag this person to church. I will change him. No, no one can change anybody. Only God can change. Listen, everybody, especially the girls, write this down. If they do not change to get you, they will not change to keep you. Write that down. Okay? Remember that in your heart. If they do not change to get you, they will not change to keep you. Right? If they try to, oh, okay, just because, I really want you, I'm gonna, play it along with you, right? I'm gonna go to church 2, 3 times. Maybe every Sunday after they get married, it's like, oh, I'm done. I'm not going to that church. Right? Oh, I don't want to go to church with you. We're already married. Right? It's really sad, but it's happening. It's happening until now. Right? And I always said to my wife, I don't like to fix problems. I like to prevent it from happening. Right? Because fixing problems is a lot of work. Okay, another thing equally yoked. The husband or the man should have the vision for the family. Okay? Do you know that the purpose of having those two cows together is because one cow is experienced in doing whatever it's doing, and the other one is the new one. So they put them together, right? So the other person, the other cow can learn, the purpose in their life, right? So one of these two cows is actually experienced in doing whatever it's doing, right? And the other one is a new one. So they have to kind of yoke it like that together. So the man, being the leader, the head of the family one day, you must first learn the way of life. You must first have a vision. So the other person, because Eve was created to become a helper. If the man doesn't have anything to do, what is the helper gonna do? Chill. The helper has nothing to do, is it? How come you're not doing anything? I said, I don't know. Well, you're the one who's supposed to come up with something, right? And then they ended up fighting with each other, right? We learned that the human, the male and the female brains are different from each other, right? Right? Female just can't stand looking at a male doing nothing because they're created to become helpers, right? Not initiators, right? They're not proactive. They simply follow orders, right? Although there's some female now who are actually leaders, right? For example, no, never mind. Now, a lot of times, male forgot the purpose, that you're created to initiate things, right? And part of initiating things, and also you need to initiate in a relationship, right? Adam was the first one who said, this is the flesh of my flesh and this is the bone of my bones, right? It wasn't Eve. Eve was just stood there looking pretty, and then Adam said, hey, you nice looking there, right? Gorgeous thing, right? So, hey, male, listen, initiate, but don't give false hopes, okay? That's terrible, terrible. I'm just gonna call this girl, maybe 2-3 times a week, right? And then after that, I'm just gonna stop calling for about a month and see what happens. I mean, why did you start it in the first place? She was doing just fine in her in her parents' house, right? You don't need to get involved in her life. She's already a complete person, right? Don't try to break her, right? Especially break her heart. The ladies like me right now, but I'm not done with you guys, ladies. Okay, okay, ladies on the other side. Okay, your purpose is to help, right? So help, right? Don't yap all the time. You say, you're not doing this. You're not doing it right. I said, hey, I'm the one with the vision. You're just here to help, right? Let's help, right? But you're not doing it right. I don't think you can accumulate to anything. You're just too dumb. You're too stupid. You can't do this. You're too lazy. You're too fat.
Ouch.
Right? I mean, ladies, come on. You're supposed to become the encourager, right? So encourage, right? So if your husband or if your spouse later on doesn't know, okay, let's open the book of Proverbs. Where's the Proverbs? The lady should be, okay, honey, it's in the Old Testament. All right, now, you got it. Right in the middle of the book. Yeah, come on now. Let's find it. There you go, you found Proverbs. Okay, look at chapter 2 now. You gotta help, right? Then just like, oh, look at you, Ray. You don't even know where Proverbs is. Right? That's why at home you read your Bible. Right? You're Singaporean, right? Singaporean, right? Look at your Bible. You watch soccer every day. You know your Bible. Right? You see, but ladies, help, encourage you, men, right? So don't just abandon them. God created you to be the sidekick for a reason. right? If we try to start a business, say, honey, I know you can do this. You can do it. Don't worry, God will provide everything, right? Encourage her. Right? Even though maybe it's like, I don't know, I don't think we can do this. I don't know, where's the money going to come from? He said, no, honey, don't worry. We're going to pray for this, right? But don't step on your man, right? If you start stepping on your man, and the man is going to feel this so small, right? Until finally said, I cannot live with this woman in the same house anymore. Then what's going to happen, right? Another broken family, right? So I never counsel any divorced couple or separated couple, but I heard a lot of stories. And a lot of times, okay, here's the thing. A lot of females think that we all men, our first need is what? Sex. Everybody, all the females think, oh, men just wanted sex. Men just wanted sex. Truthfully, they did a research, and sex is actually our second need, not the first. The first is honor, respect. That's why a man needs to be respected. That's our second need. Sex is our second need. Respect is our first need. Right? And everybody's like, what? Yes, true. Now what about the female? This might shock you. But for a female, sex is the need number 13. And you know what number 12 is? Gardening. So they prefer to do the garden instead of having sex. Right? So,
Wait a minute.
So thank God Rico knows how to garden. Right? Because after that, then you know what happened. Now that I fulfill your needs number 12, now let's get on to number 13 or whatever it is, right? So men, learn how to garden.
Yes.
Okay, now, I'm going to close with this. Jesus said in Matthew 22, verse 39. Let's open that. That will be our last verse. Matthew 22, verse 39. Matthew 22, 39. And the second is like it. Okay. Jesus was talking about two commandments. Okay. This is the second law. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. You shall love your neighbors as yourself. It is a hard thing to do, especially if you don't love yourself. Right? You must first love yourself. Huh? You must first love yourselves before you can love another person. Okay? Now, just because you can take shower once a week doesn't mean that the other person can live without water just like you. Right? Remember I talked about anticipating the other person's need, right? I say, oh man, I'm okay. I can eat once a day, but I know my wife can't. Right? That's why, every other 2 hours I ask her, honey, you hungry? Honey, you hungry? Because I can eat a full breakfast and it will last me until 9, 10 o'clock at night. Right? But I still love myself. I love myself. I feed myself still. Right? But it doesn't mean that my wife have to follow my lifestyle. Understand what I'm going? Yeah. Right? I have to anticipate her needs before she said that she's hungry. Right? So love yourself before you love others. Because I love myself, now I can learn how to love my wife. if we don't do this, we're gonna drag the other person in the relationship. We're just gonna drag that person down because we keep on looking for the other person to fulfill the 20% that is missing in our lives or the 50% that is missing in our lives. Okay? The key to happiness is simply to know ourselves and God's purpose in our lives. You know, Ruth and I are happy if everybody here married, you know, found the love of their life, right? Go to premarital counseling. We're going to bless you at the church. We are very happy if you do that. Seriously. You know, I really want you to enjoy being in a relationship that lasts you a lifetime, right? But we are happier if you stay single and fulfill God's purpose in your life, right? I think we need to have a session with right? So the degree is different, right? We want you to fulfill God's purpose in your life first. And if you know, if along the way somebody come here and then you wanted to be in a relationship, we are happy. Really, right? You know, since the first night I saw Ruth in an elevator, I knew my wife would, you know, I knew my life would never be the same, right? Because I have to be responsible to buy her new shoes now and new food and all that. But, you know, on top of my duty as a husband, right, I will never pick anyone else to spend this life on earth other than with her. Right? Every time I wake up, I say, honey, the very first day to start my day, I look at your face. For me, the sun doesn't matter. As long as I can see your face. Right? And I hug her, and then that's how we start our day. Before we go to bed, I said, honey, I'm tired, but I want to hug you before we go to sleep. Okay? You know, when you close your eyes, the stars disappear. And after that, she slapped me. Stop gombal. Right? I said, the only time I gombal because you like being gombali. You know? Anyway, that's next week. It's a very special. We're gonna wrap up all these 4 sessions. So maybe we're gonna spend about 20 minutes next week to wrap everything up. We're gonna read all the notes, and hopefully everybody can catch up with their notes. And we're gonna spend maybe about 20-25 minutes afterwards to answer some questions, okay, regarding relationship, marriage, sex, dating, and all these hot topics. Okay. So far, I have 4 questions. One of them is very, very difficult to answer. And I don't know where that person came up with the question, but it was a very good question, and I think it's very legitimate. The other 3 questions are very common, but it's very good. The reason why it's very common and it's still good because the person actually have the bravery to ask the questions, right? While others just, I just listen to what the questions are. Right? No, you know, answer. I mean, ask questions, right? It's part of the right process. And asking questions, right? Asking questions. So next week we're gonna wrap it up. Also Q&A sessions. Okay. There's still time.